All right. Well, if you have a Bible or a phone app or something on your devices, open them up to the book of First Timothy this morning. It's one of those shorter books in the New Testament, so it's okay to go by the table of contents and figure out where that thing is. If you hit 2 Timothy, you've gone too far. If you hit Hebrews, go back a little bit, and it'll be right inside there. But First Timothy is a book that was authored by a man named Paul. And Paul had a protege by the name of Timothy that he wrote this letter to. And this letter was circulated amongst his church that had some great pertinent and godly wisdom and advice for all of them. And so, if you just peruse through it, the first 5 chapters or so, you can see that it talks about how he warns them of false teachings and false prophets and such. He urges them to really hold on to their faith, lays out kind of qualifications for a church leader. In fact, our diaconate board goes over this every year when we look at 1 Timothy chapter 3, qualifications for a church leadership. And then it's just got some practical advice in it. But then it goes to 1 Timothy chapter 6, and it's one of the final things that Paul tells Timothy. And what he's doing is he's talking to a certain section of people. And it was a selection of people that was probably not as predominant as it is here in the 21st century America. But in the first century, it definitely had its place where it needed to be addressed. So over the next few weeks, I'm actually going to camp out on these 3 verses that Paul shares with Timothy because they are so powerful to what's going on in our world today. So 1 Timothy chapter 5, let's make it chapter 6, verse 17 through 19. In fact, would you do this? Have it open with you, but read off the screen so we can all read from the same version as we do this, all right? So let's read this together. Go. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wisdom, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they will take hold of the life that is truly life. All right, those are some powerful words. And so in this new series that we've been going over the last couple weeks on Unlocked, let me try to unlock what Paul is offering to Timothy here that so applies to our world today, because we live in a world that is constantly telling us how to get rich, that is baiting us to have more and to get more. But over the next few weeks, I want to talk about now not how to get rich, but how to be rich. Because there's a difference in that. There's a huge difference in that. And I want you to be good at being rich. Now, I say that, and some of you already are like, I'm going to tune this one out. This one isn't for me. I'm not there. Please do not tune this out, all right? Because if you are listening to my voice right now, you are either already rich or you will someday be rich. And I want to teach you, Paul wants to teach Timothy, Paul wants to teach this church how to be a good, rich person. All right, which by the way, I know this gets a little touchy. I've said it before. People get funny when you talk about money. And this is one of those that if I was to ask you, like, how many of you are rich, probably not too many of us would be raising our hands on that one, right? I mean, it's like, okay, where is that line of are you rich or not rich? Probably most of us would say, you know what, that's not me. I got an uncle. Now that dude is rich, right? I mean, Uncle Ted, we call him Theodore. He is that rich, right? He has a Rolex and he's got a Bentley, and that dude, you want to talk about someone's rich. That guy is rich, not me. Well, if I was to ask the question, how many of you are tall, There's probably more of a definition of that. We had a guy in the service last service. He's 6'7". I'm sure he'd have raised his hand. I would say basically, though, anybody over 6'2", 6'3", somewhere in there, probably says you're tall. Now, if you're female, there's probably a different line of choosing that one. Am I tall or am I not? Or if I was to say, how many of us are musical, I'm sure many, I play the piano a little bit, or I do this, or I sing, or how many of us are athletic? Yeah, I play volleyball, or I play basketball. I get that on golf. Sure, I'll be one of those and such. It's okay to ask with those types of things, but when you say, are you rich? Then everyone's like, well, no, that's not really me. And so my question today, for all of us to be thinking about, is what is your definition of rich? How do you think about that? Because I would say, well, it's anything but I'm not. And yet, do we realize how much we really are rich? And so the Bible talks a lot about finances. The Bible talks a lot about money. The Bible talks a lot about possessions. I mean, it's a lot. And so what I want us to figure out here is when he addresses, as Paul does, the rich, is he talking to me? Is he talking to us here at First Baptist Stockton? Because Paul was one to know. He himself was rich at one time. And yet, when he became a Christ follower, he became a Christian in that day, it was illegal to follow Christ. And so his riches were basically stripped from him. His earthly possessions were taken from him. He was later imprisoned as well. And so now as he speaks, we have reason to listen because he was a rich person, and then it became kind of not so much. But he wants to make sure that if you are rich, that you understand that there are some certain things you need to be aware of. So let me try this. Let me read it a little slower this time, because we all kind of perused our way through. We got through. Pastor Brad asked us to read, so we all read together. But now, how about we try and hear exactly what God is saying in this? And let me go ahead and read it a little slower. Here's what Paul says. Through the power of the Holy Spirit that spoke to Timothy, that speaks to us today. He says, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. All right, so over the next few weeks, I want to unpack those three verses, but I want to kind of start with us today with just a little bit of dialogue and kind of get you thinking and maybe answering if you like. And my question that I'm first thinking here is, why would God address the rich in this way? I mean, shouldn't the Bible be for everyone? Why does it feel like he's kind of separating out the rich? And why specifically does he address them? Well, let me just camp on the first kind of part of that first verse, where it says in 17a, command those who are rich in this present world. And what I want us to first of all to realize is that rich people have unique issues. Rich people have unique temptations. Rich people have unique responsibilities. Rich people have unique decisions to make, and it can be challenging to be rich, and it can set up many trials that non-rich people don't have to deal with. For example, rich people have to deal with school. and college and the possibility of going to college, saving for college for their kids, saving maybe to help out their grandkids, to participate or not in a college saving plans, 529, whatever that may be. Rich people have to kind of think through those kind of things. Rich people have a will, and they have an estate, and they have to plan an estate plan that they need to have in place because they're going to run out of time before they run out of money. Rich people have to deal with a cell phone, owning a cell phone, as Sal just said, right? I mean, rich people have like these phones and like cell phone plans, and then that means you have to decide what kind of phone I want. Do you want an iPhone or do you want an Android phone? And then you have to worry about your plan, and if you have so many minutes, and then update your plan and change your plan. And rich people have to deal with, like, when you get a phone, like what color phone like I want to have, right? I mean, like really, really kind of important decisions there, right? Rich people have these like perfectly good television sets in their homes, like flat screen TVs, right? That actually work. And then they want to throw them out because they have to decide, can I get a bigger one that I can put up in that same space on my wall, right? Right? And rich people have to decide, do I buy a CD, or I just download it on my computer, or download it on my phone, or MP3 it, or do I just stream it, or what is it that I have to do? I mean, those are complicated decisions to make, right? And rich people rich people have to worry about their kids like getting too much stuff, and then they have to store it in places, and they store it in their rooms, and then they outgrow the rooms, and so then you store it in like a garage, and then even more so, rich people, they put it like in these storage containers and pay people that they can keep it in there because, you can't have it in their homes, right? Rich people have a lot of bedrooms, and during the holiday times, it's when Thanksgiving and Christmas and family members come, and then other family members say, hey, we don't have enough room at our house, can they put them at your house, right? And then you have to decide, can I do that? Some of the relatives you hadn't even seen before, and it's like, oh, they're living in my bedroom because I had an extra bedroom, because rich people have those kind of things. In fact, rich women will stand in front of their closet. Now, I've not seen this, but I've heard about this happening, right? They will stand in front of their closet and they will say, I have nothing to wear. Oh, there's maybe some rich people in here, right? I have nothing to wear, when they have hundreds of clothes right there. And rich men, they will be out in their car houses. You know what a car house is, right? I mean, most people in the world many people in the world don't even have a house, and yet we have houses for our cars. Some people keep them really, really nice, right? Okay. Really rich people, and they put their car in there, and then every now and then they'll say, you know what, I think I need a new car, when the one that they have already works and runs, and it doesn't even change, but just decide, I want a new car. And then when you want a new car, you have to think, what kind of car do I have to get, and what kind of color do I have to get, and all that type of stuff. I mean, brings up more complex issues that they have to choose from, right? I mean, rich people have employers. Some rich people work for themselves, but then other rich people have employers who tell them, you can go on vacation and I will still put money in your bank account when you're on vacation. Yeah, it's called vacation time, right? And then you have to decide, where do I go on vacation? And, do all these other things. It's kind of stressful to have that decision to make. Right? Rich people will have these gym memberships, and they get to decide, do I go to the gym in the morning or the afternoon or the evening? And sometimes these rich people will even say, I don't want to go at all, but I'm still a part of the club, so I'll just let them keep taking my money out of my checking account, right? I mean, that's really rich people. We just have money, we can just kind of throw it away there. It's not a big deal, right? Rich people get to decide which of the 947 channels do I want to watch tonight as I'm part of this cable or streaming service or whatever it is, right? I mean, rich people, even sometimes really rich people, get to go to a university where the university says, we'll pay you to come study at our university. We'll pay you on a, academic scholarship or a music scholarship or a sports scholarship. I mean, wow, to have a university that says, we'll pay you to even come here. I mean, rich people. No, this might even happen to some people today. Rich people, like, go to restaurants and they'll sit down and someone will come and say, what do you want? And they'll just say the word and that food will pop right in front of them within 10 minutes. Like, it'll just be there, right? And then really rich people are ticked off when it's not there, like in under 7 minutes, right? Okay? I mean, rich people, get this one. Rich people sometimes are so rich that they keep their money in trash cans. You don't believe me on that one? Let me try this. How many of you, this is all play, so everybody let me know. How many of you drive a car? How many of you drive a car? Right? How many of you have an ashtray in that car? Okay? How many of you have coins that you keep in that ashtray in that car? Right? Okay, you're keeping it in a trash can, aren't you? That's where you are keeping your money. Which by the way, some of you rich people, if you're wondering, some of you rich people who keep your money in trash can are saying, where does it all go? We have a Dave Ramsey class for that, all right? Starts up on Wednesday nights, okay? In fact, we have already sold out that class, but if you'd like to come in, I have one more availability for the $35. After that, you're going to have to pay full price, but that's okay because you're rich. You keep your money in trash cans, all right? So that's all right. You can still come as well, all right? And yet, so as we look at those things that rich people have to do, what's funny about this is that some of you who deal with these rich person issues wouldn't raise your hand if I told you, or if I asked you, are you rich? And what's hard is if the Bible addresses the rich, but no one thinks they're rich, then what good does it do? Right? It's like, oh, no, that's my boss. My boss should be here to hear this message because I'm not rich. And there was a study that was done a few years ago. That was a Gallup poll, so it's kind of a nationwide type of study, about what Americans think of people being rich or who are rich. And basically it came back that they felt some other group just above them are rich, but not them. So if they made, $40,000 or $50,000 in a year, no one would say, I'm not rich. But they thought the people who made $75,000 to $80,000, now that would be being rich. And yet others who made $85,000 or $75,000, $85,000, when they were asked, do you feel rich? Are you rich? They would say, no, I'm not someone who's rich. And they would say, well, who is? Well, someone who makes about $135,000 to $150,000. Now that's somebody who is rich. And the study concluded that, the target is moving. That nobody thinks they're rich, but somebody else is rich above them. And when you get there to that place of maybe thinking that you're rich, then it's that, well, you know what, you just have to deal with stresses and problems. And so people who are really rich really don't deal with all those things, so I couldn't be rich. Do you realize globally, across the world, if you make just $37,000 a year, you are in the top 3 percentile for wage earners. It's $37,000 a year. Top 3%. 97% of others do not make as much as you do. Just $37,000. If you make $50,000, you're in the top 1% of global earners in the world. See, the problem isn't that we feel like we're rich or not rich. It's that we hear we're rich, but we don't feel like we're rich. That's what I think we all want to be. We want to feel as though they're rich. And as long as you don't feel rich, then you'll keep trying to get rich. And as long as you're trying to get rich, then you'll never act rich the way that God wants you to act, being rich, being responsible, rich people. Because most of you, to be honest with you, have crossed over that line years ago. And in fact, even if you're in college, if you're studying right now, if you're getting some sort of education, you're on your way. Even if you're dirt poor right now, you're on your way to being rich. I remember when I was in college, man, I was dirt poor when I was in college. In fact, I was working here on the staff and was going to college, get my seminary undergraduate, and then I wanted to get my seminary degree. But I lived in this little white house right across the street there that, I mean, you took 3 steps and you were across the room, the whole house. I mean, it was just that small. 3 of us were living in it at the time. And I remember there was a person at the church who was doing some knife sales. And so he's like, hey, do you mind if I come by? I'm like, I don't got any money to buy anything, but sure, come on, do your presentation for me. So we're friends. And so he sat down. He's like, oh, yeah, let me show you. And he was giving me the whole spiel. And I remember he asked for a piece of bread. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll give you a piece of bread. And he took the bread and he took his knife. He goes, cut it all up. And at the end of it, he was like, oh, what do you think of the knife? And I could not help thinking, that was my last piece of bread that I had to eat, right? Okay, I don't care about your knife. I want my bread back is what I want. I mean, I was so poor. I had kids in Haiti who were supporting me. At least that's what I felt like, right? And so, you want to talk about not feeling rich. But the first time I felt rich is I did a part-time job. I was actually doing part-time custodial work here at the church. I was in college, and I made $56. 56. I remember getting that little paycheck, walking across into my bedroom. I opened it up. I was like, $56. Wow. It was the first time that, seriously, I felt rich. Now, I'd had some part-time jobs and such when I was at home and things, but now on my own, with all my own expenses and such, it was like, wow. And my second thought was that, okay, God, with how little this is, you still want me to give 10%. So I remember giving $5.60 to the church because that was my tithe. And so, I look at that and I think, rich isn't about an amount of income. It's what you do with it. It's how you live with what God gives to you, and it's being responsible. Because that amount, when you're responsible, just continues to go up. In fact, I remember the first time, again, when I was in college, then I had 6 figures in my bank account. That was counting the 2, point places after the decimal, of course, right? Okay. Didn't think otherwise, right? Okay. Wasn't very much, right? But I felt rich. And today, to be honest with you, you need to feel richer than you are because you really are. In fact, I remember hearing the story about Bill Gates a number of years ago who went to India. And he had already left Microsoft, and he was wanting to be responsible with giving to others. In fact, he's talking about that right now at this conference, World Economic Conference. I don't agree with the ways that he's looking at spending the money, but he is saying he's challenging. I just read this last night, that he's challenging more people from the United States and others to be generous in what they do because he realizes how rich we are compared to other parts of the world. But he traveled to the small rural village in the outskirts of India, and he's talking with this poor woman by way of this translator. She was a single mom, and she had numerous kids there in her house or the place that she was living. And there was a journalist who stuck after Bill Gates had kind of talked with her and left, and the journalist stayed there, and he wanted to talk with the woman who Bill Gates had addressed. And through a translator, he says, "Did you know that the man who just left your house is the richest man in the world?" And the lady looks back at the reporter through a translator, and without much of an expression, she says, "Everybody who visits from the West is rich." I mean, to many parts of the world, just being here in the United States, just living in the United States shows or has other people think that, yeah, you are rich. I mean, it was so far out of her comprehension of what Bill Gates was worth that she thinks that everybody's worth. In other words, if you're the next person to visit her house, she puts you in the same category as Bill Gates of being rich. In America, we really have a lot of that. It's why here at First Baptist we go on mission trips. John Moore was here last service, and he's leading a team to Honduras in just a couple weeks. I know we have some of the people who are going on that trip as well. We have 10 people going from First Baptist. My wife and I went on that trip 2 years ago, and to talk about drilling water in a village, walking around into the village. I remember we visited some different homes. Some of the group went around and just meeting people and sharing a little bit about the gospel, and others of us just kind of traveled and saw their homes and their food. People were very generous. They wanted to eat their food and sit down and such with them, but the homes just are measly compared to what we live in. They're so small, and yet the people are so proud to even have a home to be able to live in. And I think about the work that we do with bringing hygiene and drilling that well and having the community in the village to be able to have water and to be able to live better. Remember, we backed up into the village with a van full of clothing and shoes and such, and some people were just excited, and we were just handing out the clothing because some of them were saying, I've never had this before. I've never had these kind of clothes. And yet they came from us here in America that were like, it's out of style, it's out of date. Yep, I don't need this. Don't need this. I don't need this, and went to other people. People were excited to receive those kind of things. A few years ago, we had His Little Feet come here. They'll be coming at the end of February with us to share about what God's doing in that ministry. But remember hearing the testimony of a child who had now grown into one of their sponsors. So he was probably in his early 20s. He said he was 10 years old before he had a pair of shoes that were his own. And finally, somebody donated a pair of shoes to him, but they were 2 left feet. He said it caused him to walk around in circles like this when he had his feet. But he said he would wear those shoes to bed at night. Maybe so that they wouldn't get stolen off of his feet, but he would be there with his covers, and he would lift up his covers, and he would look under, and he would see shoes on his feet. They'd never seen that before. Many of us give to help sponsor, be it His Little Feet children, maybe it's Compassion International, maybe it's World Help, or those types of things. But we realize that God has blessed us with so many riches. And to 90% of the people, we're in the same category as a Bill Gates. Now understand, I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty. This is more about a wake-up call of who we are here. And the first thing we need to do is admit, Paul's talking to us. We are the rich ones. We're the ones that live in the dream. We're the ones who maybe have some authority and some power, be it here in America or even across the world. And you know what? I know that times can be difficult and tough. I know the economy is not doing very well. I know many people are even out of a job, unemployed. Finances can be bleak. Inflation has eaten into, your 401k or your savings plan and things like that. Or perhaps maybe you went through a divorce and you only have half as much riches as you had at one time in your life. But we have to realize that with what we have, God has indeed blessed us. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we have more than we need, and if that's the case, then we're rich. In fact, would you say this with me? I have more than I need, I'm rich. Would you say that? I have more than I need, I'm rich. In fact, let me have you say it in a better way, because it's really what the point here today is that God has blessed me with more than I need, I'm rich. Would you say that with me? God has blessed me with more than I need, I'm rich. In fact, would you say that again? God has blessed me with more than I need, I'm rich. Now, for some of you, that made you feel guilty, didn't it? Don't go there. You should not go there, because you know what? It's not yours. It's God's, and He has just given it to you to use while you're here on earth. And if you're feeling guilty from what I've already said here today, it's because maybe you feel like you've earned it and you've deserved it and you're going after it and it is yours, when honestly it's really not yours. It's God's in the first place. And so I don't want you to feel guilty about this. I want you to feel grateful. That's really where we need to go. So let me read again, verse 17. And now, under what I have shared with you, let's look at this and say, okay, what's going on here? Let's see this in maybe a different light. Maybe this is addressed to me. Because it says, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in, what's the word there? In wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in who? In God. Now watch this. Don't miss this. Who richly provides us with everything for our what? Enjoyment. Yes, God has blessed you and he wants you to enjoy it. Do not forget that part, okay? So don't come out of here saying, no, I can't enjoy it. I feel guilty. No, don't feel guilty. Feel grateful. It's from God. He has blessed you with that. And then the challenge now is let's be responsible. Let's be responsible with what God has given to us. And I'm going to talk more about that in the upcoming weeks. You know, in general, you wouldn't say necessarily Stockton is a rich city, okay? And I wouldn't say that First Baptist Church is a rich church. But man, when you look across the world, we are loaded. We are loaded here. And our resources that we have here. We work with, we're in a denomination. We're the largest church in the denomination across Northern California, parts of Nevada, down to the Central Valley. Sometimes we have gatherings where the pastors come here and we just kind of show them our facilities and such. And you can just see the look in their eye. They're like, wow. Look at the facilities that you have here to be able to use. We're mentoring a church in Waterford right now. It's a smaller church, smaller facilities. We walked them in the door here a couple weeks ago, and they just looked at all these seats here and what God really has given us to be able to do ministry with. It's one of the reasons why even this afternoon we say, you know what? It's not ours. It's to be used for the kingdom. This afternoon we're having a Gospel Center Rescue Mission graduation here at 2 o'clock. If you want to come, cheer on some of our participants, the ones who are graduating from the Gospel Rescue Mission. It's a great opportunity to just see what God is doing in their midst, and really in all of our midst. In fact, many of them aren't here today, right? Because you're coming back early to be a part of the graduation time. But we look at our facility and say, it's not ours, it's not mine, it's God. You use it however you can use it. And so you think about that we are loaded. We have so many resources that God has given to us, buildings-wise, financially-wise, which is one of the reasons that we say we want to be so generous to give much of it away, to help agencies across the Stockton area if they profess the name of Jesus, to help organizations overseas who are missionaries. And so we help many different areas. I explained even back in November, December, we give 10% away, some of it in our budget, some of it over and above our budget, but those this last year was about 11.5% that we're able to bless other organizations with and such. One of them is HealthBridge Global. And HealthBridge Global is an organization that combines healthcare with the gospel overseas. And the founder of it is a guy by the name of John Halstead. John was a member here a number of years ago. And just it got birthed in his heart that he was in the healthcare business and wanted to see the gospel be married up with the healthcare business in helping people come to better health, but then also sharing the gospel at the same time. So I sat down with John. I said, John, would you share with us what some of our giving has done over the last few years as we have partnered with you to make a difference? Because you don't always get to see that. I don't always get to see it as well. And so John sent us a video. Here's an update on how we, rich people, have made a difference around the world. Take a look.
Hey, First Baptist Stockton, it's John Halstead with HealthBridge Global. You've been partnering with us for many years now, and it's because of you that we're able to do what we do and reach the people we reach. Let me describe that for you. Our mission is to connect the beauty of healthcare to the hope of the gospel. Jesus used this model 2,000 years ago. And we know that at least 75% of his miracles, as recorded in the Gospels, were about bringing health and wholeness to people's bodies. Then he commanded his disciples to use the same model when he sent them out as ministers. And we're following in those tried and true footsteps as we work with local doctors all around the world. And we partner with them to do three things. Number one, to meet real healthcare needs in their local communities. Number two, to infuse the gospel into every aspect of that medical care process. And number three, to create these clinics and medical projects to be totally self-sustaining in their local community. In rural Egypt, there were no pediatric services for a population of nearly 1 million people. But because of you, we opened a new outpatient clinic in November, and we will open an inpatient pediatric clinic in March or April of this year. In Romania, abortion is the primary form of birth control, and the average woman has 3 to 4 abortions in her lifetime. But because of you, we are creating the first pro-life, non-abortive maternity hospital in the nation called Life Medical Center. In India, persecution is on the rise and missionaries are being removed from the nation. But because of you, we are working with local church planters who use healthcare to maintain trust in places where they have churches and to build trust into new villages and plant new churches. In Sacramento, there are 40,000 Afghan refugees with no gospel witness among them. But because of you, we've helped launch Healing Grove Health Center, bringing health care, culture care, and soul care to these people who have fled for their lives from their homes. A handful have now come to trust Jesus, and the first Afghan believer was baptized in the fall. You can read more about each one of these projects and others on our website at www.healthbridgeglobal.org. All of this is because of you and your generosity. Thank you, First Baptist, for your partnership and for helping us connect the beauty of healthcare to the hope of the gospel.
Yeah. Yeah, so good to know that when we give here, a portion of that goes to bless so many around the world. And, I heard John say that phrase, and we kind of gave that to him because we're doing a campaign that just wants to highlight the things that we're doing around here because of you, because of you, because of you. And there's an interesting verse that I think that picks up on this kind of thought. In Philippians chapter 4, we'll put it up on the screen here in just a bit. You can go there if you want, but it's just a quick verse as I end this message time here. Verse 17, it says this. It says, "Not that I desire your gifts," because what Paul's doing here is he's thanking the people of Philippi for giving to join in with his ministry. And he then answers them and he says, "It's not that I desire gifts, but what I desire is that more be credited to your account." And that's a very interesting phrase because literally it means, hey, thanks for the gift, but what I am really encouraged about is that you have gained more from giving to me. You have gained treasures in heaven because you partnered with me to meet these needs. And this phrase here, credited to your account, I underline that on the verse. It's an interesting phrase because in the original Greek, it is a financial term meaning to accrue interest. And another translation says, I want to see profit added to your account. And I came across that thought and I read that and I thought, you know what, I've never quite seen that my earthly giving is sending something ahead and it's actually helping kind of tabulate my account in heaven. That's basically what Paul is saying here. And we struggle with that because it's like, you know what, should we think about the rewards when we're giving? No, that's not why we do it. But Paul's saying, that's okay. God is doing it anyway. He's saying that every time you give, your giving is recorded and rewarded. It's just like many of you are fasting right now. Some of you have another 7 or so days to go. Some of you may be finished today or tomorrow, 21st day. But you've taken that time to say, God, I want to honor you in this part of my life. And God takes notice of that. Whatever you are fasting and then praying about has reached his radar. He is very aware of that. And there's a sense of this recording and rewarding going on as well, for sure, financially. And what Paul's getting at here is he's saying, hey, you're getting some spiritual dividends from this. You received this, Philippians, when you gave to me. And I just want to say that as well. You receive this, Stocktonians, when you give to the Lord's work, even here at First Baptist Church. Now, some of you are saying, well, that's not why I give. I don't give to get rewards. That's okay. You do not have to. I think God does it more than we're comfortable with. God takes that step and he says, you know what? I want to reward you. Why do I pick that up? Because Paul said it right here. Jesus said it in the Gospels as well. Look at Luke chapter 6. If you're uncomfortable with rewards, I'm sorry, but that's what Jesus says. Look at Luke 6, verse 38. He says, given it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to who? To you. Absolutely. And that's why Paul addresses Timothy and he says, hey, look out for the rich there, because they got a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of things that they need to do. And you know what? When a lot's been given, a lot is expected. And we can see that through scriptures and the parable of talents and other places like that. But let me just finish up here by reading again these 3 verses, because now we might see them even more differently than we started out here about a half hour ago. Let me read it again. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17 and 18 and 19 says it like this. It says, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, to be generous and willing to share. And in this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Man, we have been duped. We have been duped in our society to think, hold on, keep it. It's all yours. You earned it. It's No, God's saying, oh, man, command them. Do good. Give. Share. And when you do, you're not only going to be blessed here on earth, because we know when you give, your heart just grows, but you'll be blessed in the age to come as well. And there'll be people in heaven that maybe you don't even know here on earth that will be there because of what you did. Because you gave of your service to people, you gave of your talents to people, and you gave of your treasure to people, and said, God, I realize I am blessed. I realize I am rich. And I realize this is not mine. This is yours. Let me use it as you ask. That will revolutionize the United States of America. That will revolutionize the world. Amen? Amen. Let's pray.